Kakadosh Boker Tov, we're continuing on Daf Nun Aleph Amud Aleph, 51a1. There we asked the question that how could it be right now, Abaye came and he asked, if right now something is permitted, but there's a minhag amongst the people that they're not allowed to do it. So you can come and start being mevatel the minhag and permitting them in front of them. So Amalos, he answered, right? Didn't he say Amar Rav Chasta? It says Rav Chasta, Bekutai. We're talking about Kutim had this minhag. It wasn't Yisraelim Ksherim. If it was Yisraelim Ksherim, you're right. You're not allowed to be matiras in front of them. But here it's Kutim. Once it's Kutim, that's it. You're allowed to, but they're not regular Jews that you're able to come and you're able to permit it in front of them. Says the Gemara, Kutai Maitama. What's the reasoning why you're not allowed to come? Right? Why is it that to do the Kutim, you shouldn't come and to be matib b'fneihem davar heter that they had an isur. Mishum de mesarche milta, because they become very attached to something. So if you're going to teach them a heter in something that was already minhag, which is asur, so then they could actually come and mizalzel in something which is mamash an isur. Meaning like this, by a kuti, since anyway they're very, very, it's not real Jews. You understand? They pretend to be Jews in many certain aspects. So because of that, if you're going to come and start teaching them something that is going to be permitted, even though the minhag was to be osir, so then they're going to be mizalzel and they say, okay, so but this is an isur mamash. Yeah, but it's also mutar. But it's just like that was a mutar. It's all the same thing. There's a big difference. That was be'emet mutar, and they were just noheg bo isur. Doesn't matter. Hanachin shenami. So to these people also sarchaminta. They become very attached to it. So if you're going to teach them something which is permitted against that minhag, they're going to just say, you know what, everything's permitted. They're not going to pay attention. Ela Maravashi, but rather Ravashi says, Chazinam, we're going to see, Iruban orez achli, if the majority of the people, they eat pat orez and not pat dagan, that means they eat rice bread instead of eating regular bread. Lo nech lezar b'payu, so don't eat the stranger, should not eat the zar, right? You shouldn't eat it in front of them. Because again, according to them, they're going to separate challah from it, even though it's not obligated in challah, but they're going to separate challah. But this is like bread. This is their bread. But maybe the challah, the Torah of challah is going to be forgotten from them. But if the majority of people, they eat dagan, which is basically regular grains, so then you could eat it in front of them. Because just in case they're going to accidentally come and they're going to separate from that which is patur to chayav and chayav to patur. Okay? Fine. Gufa, it was stated. Something which is permitted and other people they're knowing by nisur. You're not allowed to come and to permit it in front of them. The Amar Rav Chasta says, Rav Chasta, bekutai yaskinan. We're talking about with kutim. Vekule armalo. But what? In a regular case, you're not allowed to? I thought this is a general rule. The general rule is, let's say I go to a Bet Knesset, and the Bet Knesset doesn't mean that this is a sur. That's it. Well, I'm going to start saying, no, if they're kutim, then you're not allowed to, but if it's a regular Jews, you are allowed to. I thought it was a general rule. Vekule armalo. Tanya, we learned in a Braita. You're allowed to come and you're allowed to wash two brothers together, and there's no chashash for pritzut. But you're not allowed to do it in this certain place, right? They said, well, we never saw such a thing. So when they were, in order not to be mezalzel minhag, they went out. But he didn't want to say that it's actually permitted. So you see from here that it's with everything, not only just with kutim, right? And another story, you're allowed to go in, you're allowed to go out on a shut rabim when you're wearing this kurdikasin. It's like basically like a shoe which is very wide, which they're not very, very tight on the shoe on the feet. And we're not going to suspect that you're going to come and move it 4 amot. Ve'en yotzin, right? But you're not allowed to go out and bire with these type of shoes. They said, well, we never saw such a thing. They went and they took it off, right? They gave it to the servants. But they didn't want to tell them it's mutarim laten. Why? The same thing. So you see from here, it's by every Jew. Meaning that if they have already a custom of doing a certain thing, it's not good to start coming and permitting their custom. A third story, You're allowed to sit down on a safsal of a goy on Shabbat. But you're not allowed to sit down on a safsal of a goy in Akko. They said, wow, we never saw such a thing. So he went and he sat down on the floor. He didn't want to tell the mutarim naim, right? They didn't want to tell the mutarim. So why are all these reasons? So it's not only by kutim, it's by everybody, every Jew. We have such a concept. So answers the Gemara, Bnei Medinat Hayam Nami. The people live outside of Israel. It's the exact same halacha. Since there's not a lot of rabbis by the people that are on the outside, kikutim damu, they're like kutim, which means like this. Yeah, 1 second. It means that since there's not a lot of rabbis that are found in Medinat Hayam, you go even until today, you go to Israel. So many rabbanim, so many people that they're knowledgeable. They have so many, so they're all over the place. So they know what's be'emet mutar, what's be'emet asur, what's this, what's that. In Chutz La'aretz, you have a lot of me'aratzot. So they don't have a lot of rabbis around to tell them what's be'emet permitted, what's not permitted, what yes, what no. So because of that, that's why the people in Chutz La'aretz, it's like the kutim. And therefore, you're not going to permit it in front of them. Why? Because they don't know. So you're not going to start telling them something, and then they're going to start thinking, I don't know what. So because of that, you leave them with their isur. Okay? Yeah. I understand the concept of sitting down on a bench of a goyim, because it looks like you're buying and selling. Which means that if you're going to come and you're going to sit down on this bench, it looks like you're buying and selling things. Also in these shoes, which means maybe you're going to take it off and you're going to start carrying it. Right? But rochatzin, why can't they take a shower? Like, why can't they wash together? So says the Gemara, we learned in a Braita, everyone could take showers with everybody except for avi b'chamiv u'balimo balachato. So you're not allowed to take a shower with your father, your father-in-law, your mother's husband, or your brother-in-law. Yeah, these are all the people that you're not allowed to take showers with. Right? Remember that in the olden days, right? It's not like nowadays that everyone, you only have your own private bathroom and everyone takes showers separately. In the olden days, it was a bathhouse. Everyone had to go to a public bathhouse to take a shower. You didn't just take a shower in your house. Everyone took it in a public bathhouse. So the question is that were you allowed to go to the bathhouse, whether it's like, with your father or so all these things you're not allowed to. Rabbi Yehuda permits with your father because of Kvod Aviv, right? So that way the son could serve his father in the bathhouse. The Hudin lebalimo, or the husband of your mother, right? The same thing. Okay. Now he says ve'atu inu ve'gazur, but they went and they said bishne achim mishum balachoto. You're not allowed to do it with your brother because of your brother-in-law, because of your sister's brother. Now, why is the sister's brother prohibited? He didn't actually say. Two brothers, yes. It says here, because if you're going to see the nakedness of your, it says over here, of the father-in-law or bala choto, which is your brother-in-law, you're going to remember your wife or your sister. And then you could start thinking to hirurim. You understand? So that's why, which means that when you start thinking about these people, all of a sudden, he sees his father-in-law, so now he thinks about his wife, right? Or he sees his brother-in-law, he thinks about his sister. So because of that, it's prohibited. Now, they also did two brothers prohibited because maybe it's because of the brother-in-law. Meaning, if you're going to permit the two brothers, then you're going to permit the brother-in-law, and that's going to be a problem, because then you're going to think about your sister. Okay? Tana, we learned also in the Braita, Talmid lo yichatzim rabo. A Talmid is not allowed to take a bath with his rabbi. Why? Because he has to have kavod of his rabbi and fear of his rabbi, so he's not allowed to take a bath there. But if his rabbi needs him to serve him in the bathhouse, right? They used to take their utensils and all these things. Mutar, it's going to be permitted. So when Rabbi Bar Chana came from Eretz Yisrael to Bavel, he ate from the chelev, which was on the yeter of the kivata be'ema, just like it was in Eretz Yisrael. Now, it's not like in Bavel that they had the isur in this. So ulegabe Rav Avira. So he came in to Rav Avira, right? Rav Avira came in. Sava v'Rabba bered Ravuna. Came the chazinu kasi minayu. So once he saw them, he covered it. So Atu, they went and they said, they went and they told Abaye, Amar lehu shavinhu kikutai. He compared you to kutim. Yeah? That means basically he went and he compared you to kutim. Right? So he didn't want to show it in front of you. But he says, what? I thought that I thought that you have to always take the chumrot of both sides, which means that you have to take the chumrot of one side and the chumrot of the other side. I remember that some people, they used to come to Gibraltar. Gibraltar, there was a minhag that even though you were chalav Yisrael on the chem'ah, which is the butter, you didn't need chalav Yisrael. Yeah, you didn't need butter, which was chalav Yisrael. So what happened is that's a leniency, right? It's brought down in the Ramah to do with butter. So that was a leniency in Gibraltar. So I remember if somebody came from Israel, they can't just come, I'm in Gibraltar, so now I can just eat it. No. If you come to a place where they have a minhag to be machmir, you have to be machmir. If you now live in Gibraltar, now became your house, and now you're living there, okay, so then that's something different. But if not, you have to be stringent. Yeah? So it says, right? Amar Abaye says, Hanimile, when is this? Mi Bavel to Bavel, Eretz Yisrael. Inami from Bavel to Eretz Yisrael, but from Eretz Yisrael to Bavel, no, you don't need it. Why? Because us, Bnei Bavel, we are kfifim to Bnei Yisrael in halacha, which means so avdin and kavatayu, so we do like them, which means that they don't have to start changing their minagim. If they have a heter or they have something, they could continue their heter, their Eretz Yisrael, and even in Bavel, because we are subjugated to them, right? Because they're greater. Ravashi comes and he gives another answer. Afilu tema Eretz Yisrael Bavel, even if you're going to tell me it's from Eretz Yisrael to Bavel, Hanemila, one of these words, he doesn't want to return. But Rabbi Chana, he wanted to return back to Eretz Yisrael. So therefore, right, it's not going to be chal the chumrei the makom that he came. But since he's going back to Israel anyway, so even though now he's in Bavel, he doesn't have to do the stringencies of Bavel. He could go back to Israel, because he's going back to Israel, so he could do everything like Israel. So Amar le Rabbi Chana livne, says Rabbi Chana to his son, Beni, my son, lo tochal lo befanai velo shelo befanai. He says, don't eat chelev of the yeter, of the yeter, right, in a place where there's no minhag to eat it, for example, Bavel, not in front of me or not in front of me. Ani shreiti Rabbi Yochanan shachal kedai, he says, right, Rabbi Yochanan lismoch alav. When I saw Rabbi Yochanan eating it, I said, Rabbi Yochanan is fitting to, right, befanav v'shelo befanav, whether it's in front or not. Ata lo right, you didn't do it. You didn't see him do it. So lo tochal, so don't eat it. Ben befanav v'shelo befanav. Which means Rabbi Yochanan, he was a big door, so okay, he ate it, so I saw it, I could rely upon it. But if you didn't see it, so you can't start relying upon it. Opliga did there, but he argues on himself. Tamar Rechana, Sachli Rabbi Yochanan ben Lazar, says Rabbi Yochanan ben Lazar, Pam Chan Yichnaz Zechar Shimon ben Yosef ben Lakonia legina. I once went after Rabbi Shimon ben Yosef ben Yakonia to a gina, to a garden. Yeah, Nun Aleph Amubet, 51b. Venatal Sefiche Cheruv, and he took on Shiviyit, on Shemitah, after the Zman of Biyur, he took the kruv, the cabbage, and he ate it. And he gave it to me. And he told me, Beni, you could eat it in front of me. Shelo b'fanai, but not in front of me, lo tochal, don't eat it. I saw Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai shachal to eat it, so therefore I could be somech on Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai, b'fanav, shelo b'fanav. Ata, but you didn't see him eat it, so therefore b'fanai echol, you could eat it in front of me. But shelo b'fanai lo tochal, but you can't eat it not in front of me. So here it comes out, what's the contradiction? Here it's written that you could eat it in front of him, no. Not in front of him, no, but in front of him you could eat it. And he just told the other one that you can't eat it not in front of him, not in front of him. Because you didn't see him. You didn't see Rabbi Yochanan eat this chelev of the yitra. So my Rabbi Shimon, what is Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai? The Tanya was learned to write Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai Omer. Rabbi Shimon says, everything's prohibited except for the kruv. There's no such thing as in the Yerek HaSiddur, there's nothing like cabbage. Chachamim say everything is asur. They both go according to Rabbi Akiva. Remember, Shimon bar Yochai was a student of Rabbi Akiva, right? And so too it says over here, where the Chachamim here it says, the time was learned to the Braita, Hen lo nizra v'lo naso t'voatenu, right? It's like a question. Amar Rabbi Akiva v'chim yachar she'en zorim mehechal sfin. Says if you can't plant anything on Shemitah, how do you collect it? Mikana sfichin she'en asurim. So from here we learn that it's going to be prohibited. So b'maikam mipal ge, what's a machloket? Rabbanan hold that we make a gezerah sfiche kruv by other sfichim, meaning we make a gezerah, a decree from cabbage to other things as well. However, though Rabbi Shimon says we don't make such a decree, right? Why? Because it's not compared. There's nothing else which is like it. Fine, two dots. Yeah, you're going from one place to another place. So he said, if you're going from a place where they do melacha on Erev Pesach before Chatzot to a place where they don't do it, right? So we give you the chumrah of both places. So Bishama, I understand if you're going from a place where they do work to a place where they don't do work, we're going to give you a chumrah from the place where you're going to. Why? Because don't start changing the minhag because of machloket. Imagine right now there's a minhag, you're allowed to do something, right? But the minhag was not to do it. So mitzad halacha, you're allowed to do it, but the minhag was no. And I'm going to start doing it. They're going to start screaming at me. They're going to start causing use machloket. Nunca se vio, I never saw it, we never saw this and that, what's going on? But you're making a machloket. Velo le'avid, and don't do melacha. Ela bat, if you come from a place where they don't do it to a place where they do it, al yeshnei adam mipnei machloket v'navid. What? Don't change because of machloket and do work. Hamarta, you just told me that you have to give them the chumrei makom, right? Notrim ala chumrei makom shelach, lo chumrei makom she'yatza misham. Samar Abaye says, no, you're right. It's only going on the reisha, which means that you're going from a place where they do melacha to a place where they don't. Is in such a case, if you're going to start doing melacha, you're going to cause a huge machloket. But the other way around, there's no machloket. If we in Miami we don't do work, right? That's minhag Miami. No, we don't work in Miami, and we go to New York, and New York they do work. So now what? So now it's going to be asur to start doing work. What's the problem? Yeah, everyone's doing work. What's the problem? So he says, Rava Amar Rava says, Leolam be'emet ha-seifa. It's going on the seifa. V'achia, this is what it means to say. Ve'en bazu mipnei shino machloket. There's no case here in the two machloket. Ma'ika Marta, what did you say? Haroeh omer melacha asura, right? The one that's seeing is going to say that what? Melacha is asur. Meimar amri kama batlane have b'shuka. He's just going to say, look how many batlanim there are in the shuk. Which means that they're just going to say, some is a batlan. Not that be'emet he holds that it's asur. So what's the problem? Meaning, if I don't see somebody working, I don't say right away, he thinks it's asur to work. I just think he's a batlan. He's got nothing what to do. He doesn't want to work. He's too lazy. That's what I'm going to think. I'm not going to start thinking what he does, what he doesn't do. So, Amalei of Safra Rav Abba, says of Safra to Rabbi Abba, Anan diadin mikveh adiyacha, we were experts in being kovea the Rosh Chodesh and everything, right? Nun bet amud aleph on the top, but Yishuv lo avdina. So in the Yishuv, we don't do work. Even if we're going to go back to our place, even if we want to go back to our place. Because of the machloket. But if you're in the desert, what's halacha? Samalei, he said, this is what Ravami says, but Yeshuv, it's going to be a suba, but it's going to be permitted. Why? Because you're in the desert. In the desert, there's no problem whatsoever of doing the work and nothing's going to happen. Okay, Bezat Hashem, continue tomorrow.
Hazak Baruch, thank you.